To me, the song Love Dead means a lot. So it took a lot out of me to write it. You know what I'm saying? And I have a lot of love for people in situations that are way more, how do you say, like just way more severe. The circumstances are way more severe than my situation. And me, I suffer from mental health. I've been through a lot of stuff. I done even, spent a lot of my years incarcerated. Have my own traumatic experiences, triggers, everything, just like all of us. And yet, the people who I do it for are the people that can't speak for themselves. So, if you passed on, or even if you're still incarcerated and you might not ever get out, and hopefully you do, so it's always gonna be free niggas. Word, free the fam, cause we the fam, and that is what it is. And I say that to say this, like, those are the people I'm doing it for. So the song Love Dead means everything to me because the people who are dead can't speak for themselves. And a man is going to, until he masters himself, he will always be a part of the dead world. And so that's what we're speaking for. Not only are we speaking for those individuals who are a part of that dead world, maybe they had passed on or maybe they're incarcerated, we're speaking for them because now we have a higher intellect, right? We have gained knowledge itself. So we're not even saying the same things. For instance, you might put on a beat, and Jay-Z says it himself. Do you guys listen to music or do you skim through it? If you're listening to the words, right? Even like, let's take, for instance, the song Take My Hand, right? If you're listening to the actual words, I seen stuff that to tell you, like to describe what I seen would make my eyes bleed. Like, just listen to what he's saying. You feel what I'm saying? If you're actually listening to the words, the message of what the song is about, the actual concept of what the song is about is to actually deter people from the negativity, right? And when it comes to that song in particular, Love Dead, that song, it just means a lot to me. So that song was inspired by a song from an artist that is locked up right now on Free Slot, you know what I'm saying, from The Point. And he has a song, I don't even remember what he calls it. I call it the Dead Nigga song. And excuse my French and my ignorance because I don't really like to call brothers niggas. Yeah, that is what I called it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna be real. And he brings up everybody that passed away from Boston, and it doesn't matter where they're from. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's his beef, the beef of the person who he said prior to the, you know what I mean, in the last lyric, and that song inspired me so much that I said, you know what? Not only is that our culture, we have to have more of this narrative pushed through our music. You feel what I'm saying? Not the narrative of why I don't want to listen to a Boston rapper and learn everything about Chicago. That does not make sense to me. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it makes sense to me to learn about Boston when I listen to a Boston rapper. So the people who passed away from New England, those are the people who I'm putting on for. And there's never no disrespect to the people who passed away in any other region, yet we already have a bunch of authors and musicians and artists that's putting on for those people. We don't have a bunch of artists that's putting on for us. And that's what we're missing, and that's what I'm here for. That's what 43 AD is. We are band. Band is a team, and we are a team that's putting on for the dead. 4 is a D. The fourth letter in the alphabet is a D. And I'm going to say this again, probably on 10, maybe 1,000 different interviews, depending on who has me. Fourth letter of the alphabet is a D. If you spin around the 3, it's an E. A-D. What does that spell? Dead. That's who I'm doing it for. So the song Love Dead is that's who I love. A lot of the people that I love is no longer here no more. So I have a bunch of love for the dead. That's why you don't hear me talking about smoking on nobody and peeing on people's grave or none of that crazy, desecrating, disrespectful stuff that people are doing to the people who passed on. Because if you passed on, bro, like, you deserve a level of respect that supersedes whatever the rap industry has to, you know what I mean, to show or is illustrating for us. That ain't it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what that song means to me. And that's why that song, I'm gonna keep pushing it. And even right now, I'm getting a little bit like broken up about even articulating myself about the song because it means a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? And it should mean a lot to Boston culture because that is our culture. The Adidas, dogs, repping for the people that passed on. That has always been us. You feel what I'm saying? And again, we go back to when it first started. All them Indians didn't die and people was like, oh, you know what? Let's go rock with John Smith now. Fuck them Indians. Nobody said that. Them Indians made memorials. That a lot of the Indian culture is still deep rooted in Massachusetts and America, and people don't know it, right? Why? Because those were the first people who were here. When those people came and settled and tried to kill and pillage and did all of that stuff, then people already had a culture here. And part of that is so deep rooted that it's still here. And one of those things was having love for your ancestors. Rituals that were pretty much in homage, right? Paying homage to people that passed before you ever even step foot on the earth. So I'm not gonna ever, I don't care what nobody else do. Me personally, I'm never, ever going to get that lost or you know, messed up in translation. Never. You feel what I'm saying? And that's what that song means to me. It means a lot because that's New England culture. Not just Boston, not just Massachusetts, that's New England culture. Because if a person gets locked up from Connecticut, he's gonna say on dogs. I promise you. I promise you he is.
Speaking of that, what does on dogs stand for those who don't know what on dogs mean, man?
Dogs was actually like symbolic because people who wore Adidas were rebels. So you had a lot of people who were wanted to get fly at the time because it came out around late 70s, early 80s. And for people who didn't know about it even then, let's just say mid 80s, right? Because that's when you would have seen all of the drug dealers and all of the people who was, you know, influential people in the hood wearing Adidas tracksuits and Adidas and top tens and all of this. And that's where the dogs came from because they called Adidas A-Dogs. When the Kangos, right? You had a Kango crew. But the original crews in Boston wore Adidas. Corbett was one of the first hoods in Boston. They wore Adidas. Why? Because people who came from other states and other towns were wearing Uptowns. What do they call them? The Uptowns are also called Air Forces, Air Force Ones. People were wearing those, and to rebel, people from Boston wore Adidas purposely to basically be like, we got our own shit. You feel what I'm saying? We're different. We don't care about that. And so again, they called Adidas A-Dogs, and then everybody started saying on dogs, which meant to their Adidas. But the reason that happened is because somebody had passed away. So it was like a metaphor. At the same time that it meant Adidas, it also meant the people that passed away because they made a the word I'm looking for is amen. That's why you're here. The word I'm looking for is acronym. And Morbisi said that. So acronym. DOG stands for Dead Original Gangsters. So now some people say dead dogs, which only means dead original gangsters. That was actually a spin on it that people put in the mid-2000s. The younger generation, my generation and a little bit younger, started saying dead dogs. Yet dogs was already had dead in it because it means dead original gangsters. And it comes from rebellious people who didn't want to be like everybody else and wear Air Forces, especially at the time where God and Supreme had came over from New York and took over OP. They were called the New York Boys, right? Why? Because they was from New York. What did they wear? They wore Air Forces. They wore nothing but Nikes. So the people who were still in, and they took over Orchard Projects, the movie, you look it up. You don't never got to believe nothing I say. You look up on Google, you look it up, you look up the movie. There's a movie, In Too Deep, right? And the movie In Too Deep, it was so crazy. This is how sneaky and this is how sneaky systemic racism works, that they did not want that movie to bring down the property value or to shed a light on Boston that wasn't the narrative that they wanted to push. So they made that movie about Ohio. Yet that story had all the original names, right? So it's very obvious. Even the DA was Daniel Conley. That's the DA from Massachusetts. You look it up. You don't never have to believe nothing I say. You look it up. And now when you look it up, you're going to find Supreme. Again, free niggas, and Supreme is out now. I'll call him after this. Either way, you'll look it up, and God is a person who took the original person, him, Supreme, and his crew. They took over Orchard Park, and they made a part of Orchard Park. It was called the New York, like the New York side of Orchard Park. And so the people who, the bumpy roads and the rest of Orchard Park, they all wore Adidas, right? So I'm telling you that to tell you the song, not even just the song Love Dead, but just On Dogs in general, comes from, is so deeply rooted in Boston, in the history of dogs and on dogs, and you know, it's just so deep rooted, and people have passed away, gave their life for it, or people have, even if they didn't pass away, still gave their life for it. It's dudes sitting in prison right now that tried to keep that, you know what I mean? Like to try to keep, just keep that integrity for what On Dogs meant, or what dogs meant, or the culture of Boston, and all of that, and to not bring awareness to that, or to not highlight that, would be doing a disservice to myself and New England culture. I'm not just gonna say Boston, because again, we need the unity is what 43 AD is pushing. That's a band, we pushing unity. So New England as a whole, that's what we are pushing. And to do that would be doing a disservice to all of us. So no, that song means a lot to me. On Dogs means a lot to me, and that's On Dogs.